So, dear colleagues, good afternoon. My name is Alexey Kedrin, and I'm representing the Association of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers of the Eurasian Economic Union. And today I will be co-moderating this session at our forum. And prior to start our session focused on manufacturing, regulating, and providing access for orphan drugs, first of all, let me welcome all our guests, those who have been with us since early morning, both as a speaker and as a listener in the audience to discuss this important subject. And I would like to especially thank our colleagues from Orphan Consortium of CIS countries, those who have organized today's and tomorrow's forum, all the sessions for this very important subject, important for all the patients of CIS countries. Our Association of Manufacturers in Eurasian Economic Union is very closely watching the progress of the consortium, following their efforts with great attention, and we are very thankful for the consortium for their contribution during these 3 years. Today, Dr. Nuria Musina has shown the first photo 3 years ago, where all the colleagues were present, especially on that very day when the decision was made to create this consortium. And I was the lucky person to attend that meeting 3 years ago, and now we are continuing. For these 3 years, we have been collaborating with our colleagues, and we are very happy that we can discuss all the initiatives in this morning. It was mentioned, and I'm sure that Dr. Musina will repeat it during this session. And all the companies who are part of our association, all the Russian pharmaceutical industry, of course, we will be very happy to take part in the work that will help to create development of new medicinal products in Russia and CIS countries, also in BRICS countries. And of course, we will do everything necessary to make sure that our patients from every country can receive a timely, necessary, and effective drugs to treat their rare diseases. Now I'm happy to give the floor to Dr. Nuria Musina, the Executive Director of the Orphan Consortium of CIS countries and also the representative of Sechenov University. Thank you very much, Alexey. And I also wanted to mention that the photo that I showed on the morning session, you're also present there. Those are the people who were at the start of our consortium. I remember that very hot summer day, and my presentation, I was very much excited, and I'm very thankful to Elena Maximkina, who supported this initiative back then, and I'm also thankful to Alexey Kedrin and other colleagues who said that it was the right decision and who actually endorsed our movement in this direction. Well, we are having quite a difficult day today. Monday is a difficult day. Well, because for all the people who were witnessing our sessions, they were working in parallel in their country ministries of health. They have one meeting, another meeting, and they also want to attend our forum. We are promising you that for the next forum, we will not require our colleagues from the Ministries of Health to speak on Monday. There will be no plenary session on Monday because we understand that you are very busy with your day-to-day agenda. In our today's morning session, when I was speaking before my colleagues from BRICS countries, I suggested a new initiative, and now I would like to repeat them in Russian because I was speaking in English this morning, so I will repeat them in Russian. Now we can see the next steps that can be useful to improve accessibility of orphan drugs. And our first initiative here is to expand a bit further to reach the BRICS countries level and today we are discussing this because during this year, indeed, we have made a lot of efforts together with our colleagues from BRICS countries, from China, from the United Emirates, from Brazil, and indeed, we discussed the approaches to drug accessibility, methodology of Health Technology Association, evaluation of the efficacy of certain drugs, and so on. And maybe we will follow the same route here as we did with CIS Orphan Consortium. We will start with the initiation of partnership for a specific stakeholders, and I'm very thankful to my colleagues who supported this initiative this morning, and I believe that the next step will be the signature of these agreements between the key stakeholder organizations for BRICS Orphan Consortium, those who are suggested to become the founders of it, and I think it will bring great value to our CIS community as well, because the wider the patient's population that we can cover, the better off we will be, and it will be easier for us to initiate new projects. So speaking about BRICS Consortium, it covers 10 countries altogether, almost 4 billion people altogether. This is half of the planet Earth population, so you can understand the actual number of people with rare diseases here. And we can understand that Russia, China, India, Iran, and many other countries have a well-established manufacturing industry. And maybe it does not make sense to set this task to develop similar drugs in our countries, given the fact that the market is limited. So we should agree in advance who will be manufacturing what, and accordingly to ensure purchasing of relevant volumes from the manufacturers. And in this case, prices would be different if we share these volumes among our countries. And talking about BRICS countries, we can see huge potential here to improve affordability and accessibility of orphan drugs. It is a very complex organizational challenge, but nevertheless, I believe we should try, give it a try. Well, by my background, I'm healthcare economics professional, and here I see a lot of potential to try to use the same budget without any increments to try to cover a wider patient population. And our second initiative at this session, we decided to organize an industry council under the auspices of the CIS Orphan Consortium. When we were meeting first, we discussed that we will be involved in trying to get involved professionals community from the pharmaceutical industry and so on. But then we understood that unfortunately in our countries this will have a kind of conflict of interest consequence. So we don't want to discredit the expertise level on one hand. On the other hand, we understand that the success of therapy does strongly depend on the pharmaceutical industry and barriers or absence of barriers here. So this industrial council, the idea here is to use this as a venue for dialogue between different stakeholders who might be interested in manufacturing and development of medicinal products. Well, again, another person from our panel is at an important meeting at this moment. But anyway, we sent an official letter to the Russian Ministry of Industrial Development and Trade, and we hope to have their support, because our expert opinion of us as specialists in providing broader access to orphan drugs will be of some use here. So our today's meeting is a kind of a prototype meeting, and I do hope that Alexey, Kedrin will continue to lead our collaboration with the pharmaceutical industry, and we will be meeting in a more down-to-earth and practical formats. Today is just the first meeting here. So we want to fine-tune our future collaboration format here, collaboration between the pharmaceutical industry and the expert community. And initiative number 3, it was born out of, well, maybe I can call it my personal experience, because as it was mentioned, I also work in Sechenov Medical University and collaborate with other universities, and I can see this problem. We do have developments, we do have research capability, but the technologies that they are developing are sometimes not so interesting for our pharmaceutical industry. I mean, our local Russian pharma, because it's ultra orphan, ultra rare diseases, or ultra high cost technologies. Actually, this exists in any country of the globe, because it has been shelved because the economics is not for it at the moment. But our idea is that we will be collecting these projects in the space of CIS and BRICS countries and look for sources of financing and striving to bring these developments to global level through interaction with venture foundations or maybe global manufacturers in order to bring these evolving technologies to an international level, because our manufacturers alone cannot cope with that. So today, our session will be built along these lines. We will follow the life cycle of a medicinal product. First of all, discuss the development or maybe some academic interactions, discussing export opportunities, and then we will reach a specific initiative for registration provided by RFPP. So yes, thank you very much, dear colleagues. We are moving forward along our agenda, and I do hope that now Emilia Ruan has joined us. Emilia, if you are here, Emilia is the head of the Department for International Collaboration of International Research and Technology Center called NORXIN. The floor is yours. Please turn off your microphone. Make sure you have your microphone on. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay, I will share my screen now. It's okay for yours? Hello, dear everyone, can you hear me? Let me check. It seems some other noise here. So I will start my presentation now. Good afternoon, everyone, dear distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to join today's CIS Orphan Forum. Thank you so much for Professor Nuria to inviting me to participate in this important event. My name is Emilia Ruan, Head of International Business Development Department at NORXIN International Science and Technology Cooperation Center. Today, I would like to share with us about our vision about a global partnership for real disease solutions and our aims to collecting academic, industry, healthcare professionals, pharmaceutical, and other related institutions in the medical healthcare related. As we all know, rare disease, no country can solve the challenges alone, but together we can create faster diagnosis, better service, and greater hope for millions of patients. So before the presentation, I would like to give a brief introduction for myself. I'm a global project manager and head of international business development at NORXIN. I'm got a PhD degree at Kunming University of Science and Technology and the head of international business development, the global project manager. And during the past 6 years, I successfully coordinate over than 100 international science technology cooperation projects, like the joint fundings, like the academic technology transfer, and many others. So we hope build a cooperation network across the China SCO countries, BRIC countries, Europe, Central Asia, Middle East, South Asia, and Southeast Asia countries. Today, my presentation will cover the 4 parts. The first is about NORXIN, brief introduction. The second is real disease in China. The third one is challenges and opportunities. The fourth is building global partnership together. First, I would like to give a brief introduction about NORXIN Global International Science and Technology Center and let you know our cooperation model and what we can provide for the real disease field to support this specialty development together. First, NORXIN Group founded in 2012 in Xi'an, China. We are a global healthcare technology platform recognized by the Ministry of Health in China and our international expert workstation from all over the world. And till now, we also have recognized by the top 100 international science and technology cooperation institutions by the China Association International Science and Technology from the under the Ministry of Health in China. So we serve as an official support bridge for China's international medical and scientific cooperation. So this is the certificate we get in this year. This is top 100 base and center in China. So this is our accreditations and certifications in China. We got many certifications and accreditations in China International Cooperation Center like this Innovative Enterprises and many others. This is the international accreditations and certifications from the different countries like Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Brazil, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Uzbekistan, Malaysia, and South Africa. I believe many others experts today also from the Kazakhstan and Russia and many BRIC countries. We also hope you set up long-term cooperation with yours. This is our domestic presence. Our headquarters is located in Xi'an City, serve as a co-hub in the center of China, and we also have the many branches in the multiple province, including Shandong, Yunnan, Chongqing, Sichuan, Hebei, Xinjiang, Henan, Guangxi, and Guizhou. So this is blue part is all over our corporate branches office. So we have a good China resources from the different province in China. So for the international presence, we till now also have the many overseas conference office like the Malaysia, Pakistan, Singapore, and India, and Iran, and Kazakhstan. So for this part, we also the great part, we also have the partner countries from all over the world, like the Russia and Egypt and Turkey and Greece and many other countries. The most our focus on like the Central Asia, South Asia, and Southeast Asia and East Europe now. So we also hope to win this opportunity, set up a good relationships with the BRIC countries. So till now, we have global partners over than the 10,000 scholars network, like the institutions, like the hospitals, universities, and some academic research institutions here. Till now, we have cooperated over than the 50 countries all over the world. So this is our overseas experts. You can see here maybe someone you can familiar with, like the Uzbekistan, like Pakistan, like Malaysia, like Thailand, and Greece, and many other countries like South Korea. We may be familiar with these experts. So this is NORXIN partnership about overseas institutions like University Malaysia. Maybe you know it's QS the 58 in the all over the world, like many other universities like Ain Shams University in Egypt and other university we cooperate all over the world, like the UMC Medical Center from Kazakhstan and NU University, Nazarbayev University. Here we also have one planned conference in this July. So this is our partnership with the Chinese relationships like the Shandong University, Xi'an Jiaotong University. This university is the top one university in different provinces, and we also cooperate with many biocomplex and pharmaceutical and industries in the healthcare related field. So we aim to set up good connections from the academic to industry and healthcare pharmaceutical related. From the academic to the industry, we aim to set up a whole ecology system together. So for the next part, I will introduce some related real disease in China regarding the current progress, needs, and opportunities to share with yours. Maybe you are interested in about the data about the China. So I will share with you about the China real disease populations access 20 million with a vast undercount in official registry. The totally examined patients over than the 20 million, and till now we have the new cases diagnosis each year, so registers and when it's their patients. So we hope we have the huge population access 20 million. So regarding the market size to 30 over than the 100% by the 2030, driven by policy and innovation. You can see here from the China real disease drug market size and growth projections from the 2025 to the 2030 is a growth. So this is the market size is increasing each year. So this is growth from estimated to 13 billion in 2025 to over than the 115 billion by the 2030. So our government provide the growth support and policy to support in this field, like the real disease to like some innovations drugs together. So this is some neurological disorders and the market from the specialties like the hematologic disorders and neurological disorders here. So the next part I will share with the challenges and opportunities of cross-border cooperations with the different countries. So this is some data about the official real disease list has grown by the 71 since 2018 and expanding the scope of support. The 2018, the first batch released is from the Ministry of Health in China, which include 100 to 121 conditions. These landmark events provide a formal definition and recognition, laying out the ground for the policy development in diagnosis, treatment, and insurance. It's a critical first step to bring rare disease to the national healthcare agenda. So the last second batch examinations is issued in 2024. Regard NMPA accelerate approval pathway is significantly reduce the time to the market for new services. As I know, maybe many industries would like to enter the China market regarding the innovation drugs. So I would like to share with some about my experience about the purity of review and the efficiency gains and the global clinic data. So till now, the National Medical Products Administration (NMPA) has established a purity review pathway for the drugs to treat rare disease. For we have the accelerate approval for the innovation drugs from this year. So we can see some data from here. So regarding the genes and the cell surface are the hottest area innovations with the RD projects underway. So I can share with you about some the genes genes survey. This is last year released in China. We have the innovation, the drugs from the Fudan University. If anyone are interested in this innovation drugs, I can share with yours. This is the new gene therapy drugs approved for use in China. This is the brand, China brand. If anyone interested in this, I can share with yours later. So we can continue to our we can continue to our presentation about the sorry, 1 minute. Okay. So this is our gene therapy RD projects. I can show for you this is the first domestic gene therapy approved in 2025. So we are also having the emerging and established technologies like RNA and MABS. So the last part I would like to share with you the building the global partnership together and the NORXIN roles in the rare disease innovation. So I will share with you what we can do and what we can provide and the cooperation models for the NORXIN side. So for the NORXIN international partners, international projects, you can see here as a global platform, we can serve the joint fundings, which is the China intergovernmental fundings. We can do some joint academic research together. For these fundings, we can not only provide for the experts, we can also provide with the industries and enterprises and pharmaceuticals to apply these technical transfer drugs together. The second one is international conference. The third one is clinical training. We also have do many training programs in different fields each year, and the medical device trade and overseas market service. This means drug registrations in different countries. This is innovation and incubations. We also bring in some innovation like the early cancer biosensors from Malaysia. This is also our technique transfer works. So the first part I would like to share with you about our cases in the further projects. The first is our joint fundings. This is from the Intergovernmental Joint Scientific Research Fund project. For these fundings were issued 4 times each year. These fundings will support the both countries to apply for related healthcare and pharmaceuticals. Like this is the China, Russia. We also have the China, Iran, China, Egypt, China, Kazakhstan, and China, Malaysia. We have many joint fundings in different countries here. So this is the international talent development. We also do the international training program, provide to the all over the countries, especially the BRIC countries and the Belt and the Road countries like Pakistan, Laos, Uzbekistan, and Malaysia. This is the academic exchange platform. This is the China-Kazakhstan medical operations. This is the 7 SCO Cooperation Hospital Conference. Here, we invite UMC delegations in depth exchange visit to Shanxi province. This is the 4 parts, the medical industry cooperations. You can see here, NORXIN has the entry, the Guangxi Fangchenggang International Medical Open Period Zone. So in the Russia or any BRIC countries who are interested in enter the Chinese market, we can help to enter the China's national platform for the international medical cooperation together. This is proposed to establish by our President Xi in the 2019. This is the 5th part. We can do the technology transfer. This is the bringing early cancer screening biosensors. We cooperate with the Malaysia expert. This is the early cancer screening biosensors. Here now we have with the AI technology to help upgrade with these biosensors. So here now we also have examinations in the most important, the belt and road science and technology, and obtained very certifications and recognized by organizations. This is a heart center. This is a artificial heart center innovated by the China Tianjin Taida Hospital. This is the target market and the most light artificial heart and can be used in the little child. This is the seventh ICU hospital cooperation. Okay, sure. 1 minute, I will end in my presentation. Oh, this is the 7th SCO Hospital Cooperation Conference. This is the opening ceremony and Huntington Central Asia Innovator Hub in Shanghai last year. So this is my personal information. If anyone are interested in cooperation with NORXIN, you can scan my WhatsApp or WeChat. Thank you so much for your listening and keep in touch in the future cooperation. Thank you so much, dear everyone.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite our next speaker. I would like to invite our next speaker. And anyway, we will be very, very happy. I'm addressing Emilia, Ruan. We will be just very happy if you could help us with our future collaboration. And we are very interested in collaboration with universities, and we will be thankful if you could become our global partner and facilitator in building up our BRICS consortium. And also, I would be happy to invite you and NORXIN as a company to become a member of our industry council, because our industry council is open for all international stakeholders to help our researchers and our clinicians. Agenda will be very broad, but I think that maybe it will be of interest for you to join our industry council. And as for the projects that I already mentioned, and your projects that you mentioned, we are trying to establish collaboration with universities. So thank you very much for your very informative presentation. We are hoping for future cooperation. And now we are moving forward along our agenda, and I'm happy to give the floor to Kamila Zarubina, Managing Director for Science and Technology in Skolkovo Foundation, Medicine and Biotechnology. She's also my colleague from the Department of Technology Leadership in Sechenov University. So, Kamila, please, we have already discussed with you the problems of development of new technologies for rare diseases. And if possible, maybe you could share with us your prospects for financing of developments in this area and what are the current trends worldwide. Good afternoon, dear colleague. Thank you very much, Dr. Musina, for this invitation to speak. I will try to bring my slides to the screen now. Yes, new approaches to financing of orphan technology development. Here are my slides. So you must be able to see the slides. Yes, I can see it. So, dear colleagues, good afternoon. And again, I'm happy to welcome you. I'm now located in the Skolkovo Innovative Center. And we agreed that I will share you some latest news of how the financing for new developments of orphan drugs, how it is currently being done worldwide. Maybe you know about my experience in Russia and CIS countries. Those who don't know me, I will be happy to introduce myself. I'm now the managing director for science and technology in Skolkovo and also investment consultant in biomedical technology. And I'm also a colleague of Dr. Nuria Musina. Sechenov Medical University has a department for technology leadership where we are co-workers with Nuria, and we are studying how we develop new breakthrough technology and provide some analysis in this area. The global market of venture investments, at some period it was somewhat down, I should say, but currently prerequisites are very good. Prerequisites for venture investments worldwide. Last year, more than 150 deals was closed for more than $140 billion. In fact, it's huge potential in biomedical technology. Market potential is huge and the number of IPO has been expanding, and all this means that indeed the global potential is quite big. The global trends to which investors are currently looking can be grouped in 5 categories. New technologies, where orphan diseases belong to, and new technologies from the viewpoint of gene editing, gene engineering, gene treatments, and so on. The second big category is therapy. Therapy is new types of biopharmaceutical developments, the diabetes treatment, for example. A big third category is artificial intelligence, and two subsequent areas are interrelated. They are healthcare systems or healthcare ecosystems, everything related to disease monitoring and personalized therapies. We analyzed the global financing trends in financing of orphan developments, and we can identify here 3 key areas. Number 1 is specialized endowments or foundations like CIS Ventures. For example, CIS is a kind of spin-off from large pharmaceutical companies who create their individual legal entities that invest in early developments for orphan diseases. Like Sanofi, for example, has a venture company. Sanofi Ventures is their division, should we say. It happened through Genzyme merger with a Genzyme company, and Chiesi, in fact, has a very interesting story. They have a charity story as well. I will tell you about this a bit later. So there is Chiesi Ventures, also their venture company, and there is a charity foundation that supports talents both in the US and in Europe. Charity and investment and venture investment go hand in hand. On one hand, it's due to their taxation realities. On the other hand, charity helps to find talents at early stages, find them and support them. And after that, venture organizations can provide the required financing for this story. And here Sanofi Ventures is a bright example of how this ecosystem works. Here in Russia, we have a foundation. It's just one foundation, unfortunately, which is called Foundation for Genetic Innovations. It was organized last year, and it's somewhere in the middle between charity and venture. It is not a venture, it's rather kind of support for startups and researchers, but it's private money there. There are shareholders and there are charity stakeholders. I was looking for this information, and there is one example where the developer himself finances this. And number two, on top of just pharma, there is another area which is called venture philanthropy. Venture philanthropy is a special class of investments where foundation is established on charity platform, both charity and patients organizations. They can commercialize the data from patients organizations from one hand, and on the other hand, they can involve communities. There is a foundation which is called Kurma Biofund. It is an orphan initiative headed by GlaxoSmithKline. And here the company uses this money for investment, including charity financing from charity sources. There is a number of other examples, and I would like just to demonstrate to you how different are various models that are used worldwide. There are specialized venture organizations that invest in healthcare, including orphan diseases. And here in Russia, we have a foundation which is called FizTech Ventures. They have 16 projects to which they have invested at various stages. This is the venture story. And in fact, the global market for orphan drugs has been expanding, and it is very important. I wanted to show these figures to you to demonstrate how important it is to support researchers at early stages of their developments using whichever instrument is available. And I wanted also to tell you about our venue, what we are doing in Sechenov University. There is an initiative between Skolkovo and Sechenov University. Last year, early this year, we actually launched a new development here, a kind of startup in the organizational chart in Sechenov University. And here on top of leadership technologies that we have in our country, orphan diseases, cancer treatments, maybe artificial intelligence in medicine, entrepreneurship, and so on. And it's also about developing a kind of methodology of how financing tools can be developed to support various projects. And our objective is to make sure that more companies appear, more high-tech companies appear, to have more investments in this area. And that's our team. I'm happy to show you our team members. So where we work is, of course, education, unique education programs. We have a large base of startups and investments. So this is what I am doing, and also analytics and deep expertise in biomed technology and pharma technology, where we can help to build the pharmaceutical strategy for the company, create analytics, and establish a dialogue between the experts, business, and the investor, both public and private. So I'm open to invite you for future collaboration. The orphan story for us is also one of the most important areas for us, because the title of our department is technology leadership, and it is rare diseases where the leadership is best manifested. And to conclude, let me show you three areas, three global trends that are very popular now worldwide, and to show some figures here. First is artificial intelligence, and I'm not going to stop here for a long time because we are mostly interested by orphan story. Well, there is one area here, the personalized medicine, and what's interesting is that in the United States, an initiative was introduced, the Precision Health Initiative, that features genetic tests in different people, genetic monitoring, a kind of huge database where we can see how human genomics evolves, so to speak, and how we can impact it. And gene and cell therapy is another area. This is maybe the key part, the most interesting element for the investors currently. And here we are also happy to see you as our collaborators. Thank you very much for your attention. Feel free to contact me. Thank you very much, Kamila. We know very well your association. We know what you are doing, and it is a pleasure to see the development of your projects related to orphan disease drug development. Thank you again for your participation, and I hope that we will continue our collaboration. So we are moving forward. I'm happy to give the floor to the General Director of Generium Company, Daniil Dalansky. On top of having this company as a member of our association, they are also well known for their innovations in different areas. And as Dr. Nuria has said, we have now reached the stage of manufacturing with our developments, and there is an important subject that I would like Daniil Talansky to cover, mainly the challenges that the Russian companies are facing currently, the companies that came to think about how to develop drugs for orphan diseases. So, good afternoon, dear colleagues. I am happy to welcome all the participants in our forum. Yes, you can see my slides, I hope. So, Generium Company indeed is active in different innovations, and primarily when we were just founded more than 15 years ago, from the very beginning we focused on orphan drugs, and we see ourselves mostly as an orphan company, and more than 70% of our product portfolio is orphan developments. Probably you know that we are a full cycle company. We can develop the molecules from the very beginning, make the preclinical studies, subsequent manufacturing, and introduction in medical practice. Our research and development block is a large private research institute where about 200 scientists work. It is located in Vladimir region. More than 30 projects are currently in progress at various stages, preclinical and clinical and so on. And there we can make a full cycle of research, starting from the concept all the way to the registration of the drug. And clinical studies are made both in Russia and in international level with clinical companies in Belarus, Kazakhstan or Tajikistan, and also going beyond to BRIC countries, also Middle Eastern countries, Turkey, and so on. Speaking about our production, we have 3 production sites. 2 of them, the largest ones, are in Vladimir region, and recently in 2025 we opened a new site to produce drugs in Moscow, in Alabushevo Technopolis in Moscow, and there we can produce any gene engineering product, antibodies, enzymes, insulins, and so on, and also chemical synthesis products. So our orphan product portfolio, we started with hemophilia, and more than 15 years ago, actually, back in 2010, we came up with our first 3 drugs for hemophilia A and B treatment, and after that we moved to mucoviscidosis, Gaucher disease, paroxysmal nocturnal valinuria, And after that, we came up with the drugs for SMA treatment and also drugs for beta-cytopenia products and also mucopolysaccharidosis drugs. I would like to stop at our original product that is first in class. We registered it just several months ago to treat Hunter's syndrome. We are proud that this drug was first registered in Russia. However, now we are moving towards obtaining authorization for this drug in other international market because it is a global innovation. We were the first ones in the world to use insulin receptor to overcome the blood-brain barrier, and were able to deliver the drug directly to the central nervous system of the patient, because the currently available therapy can only affect somatic manifestations, somatic symptoms of the disease, but for Hunter's syndrome it is insufficient because many patients have manifested symptoms that require a central nervous system impact. Also, let me tell you a little bit about our gene therapy. We are in the clinical studies of our original product for Duchenne dystrophy therapy. The drug is a viral vector for a ninth serum type that encodes a shortened dystrophin gene, and we believe that it will become available to patients both in Russia and outside Russia, and we believe that the first genetic therapy product developed in Russia will appear in our country. Also, we have a number of other drugs at early preclinical study phase, where clinical study phase, where patients are already taking part. One of them is approaching phase 3 already, and patients are followed up, patients that are treated with the drugs. Some other drugs are at preclinical phase, so we are not announcing them yet, but when they reach this phase, we will make a public announcement. Our collaboration with Orphan Consortium, of course, we are very much interested in making sure that our developments, those that we submerge in our product portfolio, of course, first of all, meet the needs of our patients and the medical community. That's why we are in continuous contact with medical organizations, with the leading medical centers, and we will be happy to collaborate very closely with the Orphan Consortium in order to receive expert consultations from your part and to involve patients in joint discussions and creation of the drugs that they need desperately, because the coming up with a concept that a certain drug should be developed is already an important step in this journey. And also we need to continue collecting real clinical data about how our drugs are used, what are the consequences, effects. We need real clinical cases for our drugs, what is happening to these patients, and so on. It is important for us to plan our future work. So that's about it. If you have any questions for me, I will be happy to answer. Thank you very much, Daniil, for your presentation. And indeed, it's a very interesting pipeline. You have also gene therapy and other approaches. And when international colleague asked me, what kind of companies do you have? I also mentioned Generium, who works not only in Russia, but also in international markets. But nevertheless, if we talk about putting together the agenda of our industry council, because we wanted to start working at our venue, what could you say about the problems that we should discuss first? Of course, there are many internal problems like improving the efficiency of financing and so on. But speaking about systemic work and regulatory work, we have colleagues from RFPP who suppose that we introduce orphan designation status in FDA, similar to FDA and EMA, to split these two processes, reimbursement and registration. Because in CIS countries, historically, it happened that orphan designation is about financing. So what do you think, as a Russian company, do we need this status to be as in other countries? A company has started a development, gets the status, orphan designation, continues development, and then Eurasian Union countries themselves decide what should they do next, and then they receive the next status as orphan drug. But international companies who developed these molecules, they enjoy certain benefits, like taxation benefits and so on. So what do you think, you as a Russian manufacturer, do we need to have this procedure and harmonization with Europe or America? And most importantly, harmonization inside Eurasian Union, because that's related to financing. Yes, I agree. I believe it will be right to separate these two terms because they are about two different things. For us, at the conceptual phase, orphan status is important. Orphan designation is important because sometimes it could help with faster export review to reach the market faster. But financing is a different story, and I fully agree that we should better split the two so that one is not a barrier to the other. And in response to Alexey Kedrin's question, what are the current challenges? Well, here maybe I can tell you the referent drug procurement. If we talk about biosimilar product, sometimes it is just impossible to purchase a referent drug. Because yes, there are data that they are obliged to provide it for the developer upon demand, but in practice it rarely happens. So that's one challenge. Talking about original developments, as I said, well, indeed, it should be important to have this opportunity for an open dialogue with the medical community, to be able to get requests from them about what do they need, what are the products that they need, and to see the specific need in some products. And if we were able to build a kind of registry of demands from orphan community, this could improve on one hand transparency, and on the other hand might expedite new project launches and to make them more targeted. Yes, thank you very much. And we are moving further with our agenda, and I would like to introduce to you my colleague, health economics and HTAi expert, who is also a participant of Rare Disease Interest Group from HTAi Assessment International, and also has a huge experience in working in a company who registers, supplies, and manages market entry for orphan drugs in Middle East and North Africa region. It's Ayman Semaan, and he will tell us about export in MENA region. So I'm happy to give the floor to you.
Works now. I have to choose to move to English, right? Done. Thank you. So again, thank you for the invite, Dr. Nuria. I would really like to acknowledge the dedication of everyone involved in the field of rare disease. The progress has really historically dependent on the persistent creativity and the international cooperation that we are seeing in such forum. And many of the advances we see today are the direct result of this collective effort. So again, thank you for the invitation to speak, and I look forward to an engaging and productive session with all of you. So what I will be presenting today is basically focusing on the evolving rare disease landscape in the Gulf, Levant, and North Africa. I represent this region as I have worked for more than 20 years in the pharma industry, focusing specifically on rare disease and orphan drugs. I will summarize the progress made in this matter related to policy shifts, access model, and market trends, and with a focus on the go-to-market strategy and what are basically the important levers that are helping the progress in the field of rare disease in this region. So in a nutshell, I worked in access and pricing, expert in pricing policies and health economic modeling, but also I am an active member of the HTAi Rare Disease Working Group and a former board member of the ISPOR. I pioneer the patient voice in HTAi frameworks in the region, working collaboratively with policymakers, and as well pioneering also value-based risk-sharing agreements in the field of rare diseases in the region as well. This is my disclaimer. And let me, without further ado, move to the presentation outline, focusing basically on 4 aspects. Why this region is critical and important for rare diseases, what are the unique drivers, and second, I will move to policy and regulatory landscape to focus on the go-to-market frameworks and policies. And then in the third part, I will discuss a little bit what are the value and access frameworks related to rare diseases, and I will end with a short summary to really help those interested to join the progress in the Gulf, Levant, and North Africa, and from an industry perspective, policy perspective, or research, etc. So why this region is very important in matter of rare diseases is basically because of the epidemiology and the consanguinity. So we know that in the region of the Middle East and North Africa, more than 300 million people live in this region, but the consanguinity rates are very high. They can get up to 50% in some Gulf communities, for example. And the number of rare disease patients is higher than the global average. It's between 400 and 800 person for 100,000 population. So it is much higher than the global average. And with all of that, we know that in the region there is fewer than 5% of patients they have access to an approved rare disease treatment. And I know this is a global challenge. So it's a high genetic burden. Subconsanguinity rates can go up to 20 or 50% across the Gulf. There is some fragmented data and registries. We have more registries in the Gulf than in North Africa. This is a very growing field. The diagnostic odyssey, you all know that patients face multi-year journeys before confirmed diagnostics. However, there is real progress from a diagnostic perspective, and I will share with you some of these recent news. And before moving to the next level, I would like to really look at this region not as one cluster, but at 3 clusters, because there are different universal healthcare coverage, different access and regulatory policies in this region. We can single out the Gulf alone, the Levant, which is Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, but also North Africa as a distinct region. They have really this high discrepancy for the dynamics for rare disease in this region. So what about policy and regulatory landscape? Do we have orphan drug pathways, accelerated pathways in the region for any interest in the region? So before moving to this to the orphan drug designations, it is important that you know that in some countries in the region, like the Gulf, there is a high interest and universal healthcare coverage for locals for rare diseases. And this makes it a key driver for the investment in matter of rare disease, for research, for early launches of innovative products, but also recently biosimilars also. Some other countries like Algeria, Iraq, or Oman, a bit more budget sensitive, but there exists a universal health coverage, but it is budget dependent. And some other countries also like Egypt or Jordan, it might be low or exceptional, also really depending on the available budget. So if we look at the region, we see that some of the healthcare authorities have already established strong frameworks for orphan drugs. The most advanced is Saudi Arabia, where there exists a fast-track pathway and an orphan drug pathway for innovative medications, which accelerates the registration. But on top of that, there exists a breakthrough medicine program, a research and investigational drug designation, also a framework for the Saudi FDA that even helps products even prior to international approvals to be also supplied to the market. In UAE, in Qatar, in Kuwait, there exists also some fast-track pathways and orphan drug pathways, but in some other countries, it is reactive or limited to case by case. If we look at North Africa and Levant, this is totally different. There are some initiatives in Morocco and Tunisia, especially also growing health technology assessment activity to really analyze and assess orphan drugs, but this remains slower than the and less complete than the available frameworks in the Gulf. So there are some publications in the region that really helps assess what could be the time needed to grant orphan drug manufacturing marketing authorization. It remains really showing discrepancies between countries and another. So I have already detailed this, but it is important to really focus that maybe the most complete or advanced created framework for rare diseases exists in Saudi Arabia, and but the progress is quite fast in many countries in the region. In Iraq, in UAE, we are seeing much more initiatives to really adopt and enable the availability of drugs and rare disease drugs in the region. Let's shift from a policy to access and value frameworks, but also with focus on diagnostics. So there are many innovative initiatives across the region to enable a diagnosis, because it is basically the first and critical important part of the continuum of the treatment for the rare disease patients. So we are seeing initiatives in Qatar, like the Sidra Medicine partnering with Begin NGS to launch a genome-based newborn screening program. Similarly, in the King Faisal in Riyadh, King Faisal Research Center also establishing and investing in genetic disorder diagnostics, but also the Emirati Genome Projects, that is a huge project. So these are not only limited to the Gulf, we are seeing also newborn screening pilot initiatives in Morocco, for example. This is because this is really a dynamic space also to monitor in the coming short years. The healthcare system also in Morocco will become also more averse and supportive to rare disease frameworks. Not only diagnostics, but we are seeing initiatives to locally manufacture some rare disease medications, especially on gene therapies. And the larger the market, the more scalable initiatives we are seeing. We can single out here the King Faisal in Riyadh, where the first cell and gene therapy manufacturing facility was established in 2025 in order to scale the production of T cells, stem cells, viral vectors. There is also the Abu Dhabi Stem Cell Center. And the more we're seeing diagnostic initiatives, the more we're seeing manufacturing initiatives, this also is pushing for more local landmark trials. And this, if you see on the right-hand side of the screen, the SFDA, the Saudi FDA, has shared that 2025 was a landmark year for clinical trials in Saudi Arabia. At most of which we're focusing on also rare disease and hemato-oncology. If you look at access and reimbursement frameworks, the general reimbursement framework is national formulary listing. So whether in Saudi Arabia or UAE, so it's a formulary listing process that starts with physician interest, patient identification, and moves to clinical and economic assessment. And there are lots of initiatives to create a sophisticated framework that gives a fair analysis and assessment for rare diseases, of which growing interest in health technology assessment and health economic frameworks in the Gulf, in multi-criteria decision analysis, which is also one arm of the HTAi, but also the evidence that is shared by these health economic models is leading to the development of outcomes-based and risk-sharing agreements, mostly in Saudi Arabia, but also followed by the other Gulf countries, followed also recently in Iraq. Also, we're seeing interest in financial-based agreements. I was personally part of the first performance-based risk-sharing agreement in Saudi Arabia on SMA, which has enabled the national-wide access for rare disease medication in Saudi Arabia. On the right-hand side, you can see an interesting publication that shows you the most used access frameworks for rare disease medications in the region, with focus on Egypt, Saudi, and UAE. And you can see that there are availability of named patient access, the early access. Compassionate use also is widely used, especially pre-registration, in order to support a clinical expertise, but also enable how to cross the access barriers, the early access barriers, because product is not yet approved or not yet budgeted, and more interest in outcome-based agreement and financial-based agreement. So if you look here in a short summary, you can see like it's a nice map that would show you, for example, which countries have centralized procurement for rare disease, which countries have are more towards clinical assessment. Some countries are more towards economic assessment. So it's a map that really summarizes that there are, and it shows that there are discrepancies basically between the access and value frameworks and the investments on rare disease. The volume that comes from large markets like Algeria, Egypt, and Iraq is interesting, depending on the product, on the value of the medication, and how the pharma industry can balance volume and price. But also the volumes of patients, the number of patients in the Gulf are probably less than Egypt and Algeria. But again, there are much more investments and ability to pay in this part of the world. So I've shared previously that there are developments in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Saudi Arabia, and UAE in developing health economic frameworks to assess rare disease medications and really propose fair prices for the negotiation with payers. And these frameworks are becoming more and more developed, but these 4 countries are pioneering the HAOR and HTAi modeling for rare diseases. In my last part, and putting always the patient at the center, this is the patient advocacy, the patient groups is still a nascent and developing idea in the region. There are some growing advocacy infrastructure, more interest, more mediatic interest also to support these patients. There is the MENA Organization for Rare Disease, the Kuwait Academy of Rare Disease, the Nadir platform, Ana Farid. This is an ecosystem that is rapidly maturing and also converging all the initiatives and all the ideas and all the pressure towards really having a maturing system in the region that helps and adapts towards supporting these patients. So what I would recommend is to adapt, to partner, and to maximize. The train of rare disease progress in the region is fast, although we have different paces in the region. And it is important for anyone with high interest in this region, in the field of rare disease in the region, to tailor the access strategy to the regulatory and procurement context for each country, recognizing GCC, Levant, and North Africa as distinct market segments, to build a multi-stakeholder approach with physicians, with patient groups, with clinicians, but also take into consideration the infrastructure, the genomic platforms, the diagnostic platforms that are growing in the region, but also the payers that are becoming critically engaged in decision making. And last but not least, really keep in mind the value-based pricing. Whether a company is interested to invest in an innovative medication in the region, or also a biosimilar, things are progressing quickly, and the more we got engaged fast with the development of this framework, the more we'll be able to leverage really all these frameworks and innovative payment models. My key message for today, the regulatory policies, the infrastructure, and the patient advocacy pilots and the HTAi evolution in the region are converging in an accelerated way. But there are different speeds in the Gulf, Levant, and North Africa, so they require differentiated approach to pricing, access, and evidence generation, and also stakeholder management. All this because we're seeing healthcare system and patient-centric partnerships, not only from health authorities or patient advocacy groups, but also from the pharma. So manufacturers and policymakers are engaging proactively to shape the frameworks that are built today. So the partnership mindset is perfectly sends a message to act now, to really build on this momentum and this growing opportunity for supporting the rare disease patients in the region. Get in touch if you require any additional insights regarding the region, the rare disease framework. I generally support interested industry or also academia or any other institution with interest in the region and the rare disease framework. So happy to support. And again, big thanks to Dr. Nuria and the organizers of this consortium on really enabling this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Semaan. Indeed, it was very interesting to hear what's going on in the area of diagnostics and treatment of rare diseases in such a large region as MENA region. Thank you very much for your participation and informative slides. I hope that you will stay with us for some time. And we are moving forward, and I'm happy to give the floor to my colleague, Anna Lakhtanova. who represents Association of International Pharmaceutical Manufacturers. Please, the floor is yours. If you can hear me well, dear colleagues. Okay. I'm happy to welcome the participants of our forum, and thank you very much for the thanks to Orphan Consortium of CIS countries for this opportunity to speak here and for this possibility to present our suggestions that our association developed to further improve regulating in the orphan disease area. I will need 2 seconds to bring up my slides. I hope that you can see my slides. So could you please make it full screen? I think it is full screen. Can you see it now? Is it full screen? Yes, excellent. So, dear colleagues, I am the president of the Committee for Drug Management, and I represent Association of International Pharmaceutical Producers, and our association for many years has been the leading partner in the development of regulation in Eurasian Union countries from the very onset of our activity 10 years ago, when we created a joint market in Eurasian Union countries. Our association started to play active role in policy and regulatory framework development. And of course, our committee deals with authorization for drugs and building up smooth procedures, including fast-track procedures, to reach the joint market of the Eurasian Union. And today, we have the situation when we watch very closely orphan drugs and the regulatory basis that we are currently having in our Eurasian Union market, and the current practice that we have today that has been proven, and now we can further fine-tune it. And from time to time, we are performing studies among the members of our association. And recently, we looked further into the future, looking at the prospects of authorization for original drugs in the Eurasian Union market and the plans of our pharmaceutical companies. Maybe it will be of interest for you to look forward 5 years in the future and to see that in different types of orphan drugs and in different areas, a huge role is played by orphan drugs. So this is a natural focus, a global trend, and it is also shown at Eurasian market, the future of our original innovative drugs. By 1/3, it is orphan drugs. So to help a drug reach the market is one of our key objectives today. And the regulation procedures in Eurasian Union that has been applied very actively, all the mechanisms that are currently available in this regulation, like fast-track registration, conditional authorization, these are 2 huge blocks that have been implemented, and gradually, step by step, as the Eurasian Union regulatory framework is developed, we are starting to cover orphan drugs as well. We have a fast-track procedure and normal speed procedure, but they are both very fast to provide fast access to these drugs, and orphan drugs always have a right to get these preferential regulatory statuses. And the orphan drug itself, but not only orphan drug, any high-tech drug, in fact, they have certain preferences that are very important for developers, for manufacturers, and for them we provide these opportunities for fast track registration, and it is permitted to have some exemptions from the mandatory list of documents for the authorization, and I think it is important for the developers of the drug. Also, there is a criteria of reducing time for expert review, which is also important. The registrators will be able to understand that these mechanisms of shortened expert review is also one of the key parameters for a successful passing of this registration procedure. Also, it becomes possible to us to involve the manufacturer in electronic document communication that makes it much more comfortable and smooth. And for example, packaging languages in the description, in the PIL leaflet, and so on. So what's going on as of today? We have accumulated a certain experience during the last 5 years, I believe, no more than that, when different mechanisms of registration in the Eurasian Union, like mutual acknowledgement procedure, for example, and other mechanisms. So I am not going to dwell in the details on these slides. The main thing is that there are two options for the beginning of this track registration without acknowledgement in every country of the Eurasian Union, just one country is enough. And what our regulators teach us is that the country that there are no authorizing countries here, then it can go through fast track with the documents that are required for registration in this country. Of course, the main country of application is the Russian Federation, where we have all the complete document sets for orphan drugs. We have a procedure developed. We still can improve it further, but altogether it is quite understandable and fast registration track. But even if there is a country that wants to authorize this product, it's better. If there is no country that has authorized this, it is more difficult, because in other CIS countries the mechanisms are quite different from the Russian procedure. So unless the manufacturer provides orphan designation from every Eurasian Union country, then the registration will be refused. Regulation of orphan designation is different in every CIS country. At this slide, you can see that every country knows the level of orphan designation development and relevant technology development. You can see the specifics here. Generally, countries are more or less similar by one parameter, which is disease prevalence. So you can see that prevalence is equal in 4 countries out of the 5, but in Kyrgyzstan, they changed this orphan status threshold just recently, and this rarity reflects their realities. In every country, plus minus, there are national lists of orphan diseases, naturally so, and these lists are there to ensure appropriate mechanisms to providing broader access. These lists are updated at a very slow rate. Of course, we can see the number of diseases in the national lists is not even close to the real number of orphan diseases that exist worldwide. Today, we know about more than 6,000 orphan diseases, but as for the registration on the list, you can see it's lagging far behind. And today, the current situation is that orphan designation in all Eurasian Union countries does not limit prospects for registration. The impossibility of simultaneous orphan designation does not limit the prospects for registration. So This is important to make sure that these differences in state guarantees in different countries of the Eurasian Union do not impede this procedure. Currently, we cannot use all the benefits that are currently available for orphan drugs. Therefore, we cannot bring these drugs simultaneously to every market of every Eurasian Union country, because we cannot get this orphan designation simultaneously in every country. So I think that recently it's true that we have started to discuss a streamlined, unified procedure for all Eurasian Union countries to make sure we can bring them to the market at the same time. And probably this will also help us to address this barrier that is currently existing to reach the registration in every country, which we already mentioned. A decentralized procedure will make it possible to simultaneously register it in every country of the Union. Of course, we are looking at the European Union as a kind of prototype. We took it as a kind of basis for the Eurasian regulation market, and this regulation is quite detailed. Of course, we can understand that there are some specificities here, but nevertheless, it's kind of unified application, and all the EU members participate in the assessment and evaluation of this application. It is a kind of centralized procedure, and also we can see that all reimbursement mechanisms for this therapy start to work after authorization has been granted. So the registration of orphan status and then the registration of the drug itself does not mean reimbursement, and we suggest that we can look at this with greater details from our Eurasian Union and take it as a basis for our developments. Maybe also it is important to come up with the specific criteria of orphan designation so that we were all playing on the same field, so to speak. The international criteria are not that numerous, actually, like criteria of rarity, criticality, accessibility, good economics, or various stimuli for this. They are different in different countries, and if we take our Eurasian Union, out of all the criteria that we suggest to consider here, the main basic criteria that provide equal basis for the norms that were incorporated in the current regulatory framework of Eurasian Union countries. The main thing is to justify disease prevalence, the unmet need as the equalizing factor, and also the seriousness, the morbidity of the disease. This also can be a criteria which can be seen frequently in the global practice, but not existing in our current practice. So you can make this application if we this actually is possible in other countries as well, not only the Eurasian Union, based on the so-called national lists. It is not mandatory, but it can help greatly for the decision making. I would like to stress here that the lists of the diseases that exist today in Eurasian Union countries are not the stimulating prerequisites for prescription of this. It can be considered as a help, but it is not mandatory to be present on this list. And all the materials for the development that are currently accessible. The procedure is there. It's there. It has been described. And it is the decision number 78. It is an excellent prototype that can be used in every Eurasian Union country. It is an efficient procedure I'm speaking about the special significant status. This procedure that has been prescribed here can be taken as a basis. You can see the description on this slide. It can be taken as a basis with the criteria that I already mentioned in the previous slide. Of course, there are specific features here. For example, the orphan designation for what trade name is it the non-patented international name, or is the status only issued for the specific indication, for the specific manufacturer of the drug, and can it be expanded to other countries where their national authorities can make this decision on their own. Also, inclusion of new indication, because new indications appear every now and then. And we suggest to look at them as maybe non-orphan, but nevertheless involve them on the list of these indications in the general characteristic of the orphan drug, and vice versa as well. For an orphan indicator, if a non-orphan drug is used also on indications other than orphan disease, this can also be used. Also, we suggest that we keep national procedures for orphan designation. So far, we believe they can stay as they are at the moment. And the next step would be further harmonization of our approaches in the Eurasian Union countries. And to conclude my presentation, let me highlight three main messages. We believe that the existing difference in different Eurasian Union countries in their approaches in orphan designation really jeopardize the very prospect and speed of registration, if we speak about simultaneous registration in all countries. So it is necessary to streamline and harmonize the orphan drug criteria in order to expedite the registration procedure. And the next step would be creating a unified, streamlined procedure for orphan designation at the level of the Eurasian Union. And this orphan status as a unified procedure will be a logical next step for regulatory management of orphan drugs. So now thank you for your attention, and I'm open to subsequent discussion at the consortium site and at this forum. Thank you. There is a question, but the microphone is off. So after this webinar, where Ms. Lakhtanova has presented her concept, we also talked to our colleagues from other CIS countries, and we all together believe that it is a very well-grounded suggestion, and I think that after this forum we will take some time to discuss it internally at our forum. But generally I can say that we are generally supporting your proposal, and it would be interesting for us to interact with you as the expert community to validate these criteria. Because on one hand, there is a kind of analogy with drugs of special importance, but here we have a kind of different aspect. In order not to overlap with the orphan status of drugs inside each specific country, because you rightly said that one of these aspects is actually the reason why the other is lagging behind, because these limitations do not enable us to register the drugs as fast as possible, and the manufacturers, it's not interesting for them this pharmaceutical supervision system, or if they bring them without having the registration. So it is a very important suggestion, and in the future we will continue our work with your association, because we as the expert community are very interested in having the drugs imported to our markets. And as for financing, that's a completely different issue. It depends on specificity of every country. Thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to our Kazakhstan colleagues, Marina Durmanova, who also participated in the creation of our consortium. She was present in Moscow at our very first meeting. Marina Durmanova is a very knowledgeable expert in pharmaceuticals regulation issues and the problems that you can see in Kazakhstan in terms of access to drugs and manufacturing of drugs is very important. And I would like to ask you to comment on this initiative that we are currently contemplating. How do you see it? And also some proposals from your side of what we can improve now in order to make the drugs more accessible. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone here at our first Orphan Forum and to thank Nuria Musina for this invitation to speak at this forum. And as for my opinion about the initiatives that you expressed, I think that you are talking about the initiatives that Dr. Lakhtanova mentioned. As for the working groups and our participation in the resolution number 78, 106, it does not matter because we are closely cooperating with the International Association of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers. Our association has celebrated our 30th anniversary. We were the very first who were created in Kazakhstan, so we have a jubilee in this year. So I would like to focus our attention on pharmaceutical provision for orphan drugs for patients in Kazakhstan Republic. So, in recent years in our republic, we have been working to improve drug accessibility for orphan patients, and the main focus areas are improvement of the regulatory base, personalized medicine, and consequently personalization of shaping the volume of unmet need, and also improvement of the mechanisms of procurement and financing. Orphan drugs create serious challenges for the whole healthcare system in all countries. Previous speakers mentioned that this is primarily due to low prevalence of the disease that makes it very difficult to both diagnose and accumulate clinical experience. Usually, we hear that very few clinical data is provided. Also, most orphan drugs are very costly as a technology, and for many patients, lifelong therapy is required, while the cost of treatment can amount to dozens and hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. That's why drug accessibility for orphan patients requires special regulation mechanisms and fast-track access to innovations and sustainable financing. One of the most important steps in Kazakhstan was improvement of the regulatory base. In October 2025, we introduced changes in the rules of shaping of orphan disease list and the drugs to treat them. The key change was a reduction of the orphanity threshold from 50 down to 10 cases per thousand of per 100,000 of population. This was important because we harmonized our approaches with the norms of Eurasian Economic Union. What is important that in Kazakhstan for orphan drugs there is a whole number of preferences. In February 2026, we updated the rules of review of clinical guidelines. Now it is possible to include non-registered drugs in clinical guidelines, even if no evidence is provided. This is very important because in many cases, innovation therapy appears much earlier than this drug can go through the full procedure of registration in the local market. International clinical guidelines or international protocols can serve as a basis here. Therefore, there are additional opportunities created for a faster access to state-of-the-art therapy. Another important area is fast-track registration of orphan drugs. Starting from 2025, in Kazakhstan, there is a pilot project through so-called one-window access, ensuring fast-track expertise and shorter duration of the expert review for the drugs that have been already approved by the regulators. The registration period can be as short as 15 working days, which is very important, especially for orphan status drugs. Because, well, clinical guidelines they feature these drugs on one hand, as Anna Lakhtanova said, still it is very desirable that these drugs for orphan diseases therapy still go through the registration procedure. This new model also envisages parallel expertise, expert review, and registration procedures in order to include these drugs in the national formulary of drugs. For orphan drugs, this is of critical importance because timing factor is something that directly impacts the forecast for the patient. Also, we are implementing measures to improve accessibility of the therapy as part of the free of charge medical care and mandatory social medical insurance. These drugs are free from VAT tax. However, from the new year, we introduced a 5% VAT tax for drugs. But this exemption enables to reduce the burden on the healthcare system and improve accessibility of the therapy for the patients. Also, there is a requirement for mandatory inventory, backup inventory of the drugs that is used to ensure continuous supply for new patients that might be detected. A special significance is improvement of the centralized procurement system for orphan drugs. Today, this procurement procedure is through single centralized distributor based on consolidated assessment of the need. Priorities are sustainability of supply, timely access to the therapy, and minimization of shortage of the drugs. The market of orphan drugs is becoming very complex from the procurement mechanisms viewpoint because the number of manufacturers is limited, volumes are low, and cost is very high. That's why for the healthcare system, it is especially important to provide high-quality planning of the need and shaping of sustainable supply mechanisms. Currently, we are also looking at the prospects for international collaboration here and cross-country procurement of the drugs, what we are discussing right now with you. We are thinking about consolidated procurements exchange of experience between countries, and improvement of the supply sustainability. This approach can provide a number of preferences. First of all, it is higher accessibility of the therapy for the patients. Also, cross-country interaction potentially helps to reduce procurement risks and improve economic efficiency of the drug access system. Despite the measures that we have already performed, still some challenges are standing out. Among the key areas of further development is improving yet faster access to innovative therapy, improvement of the financing mechanisms, development of the HTAi technology, improvement of supply sustainability, security of supplies, and subsequent improvement of procurement mechanisms. It is very important that today in Kazakhstan, step by step, we are building up a systemic approach to the drug accessibility, including orphan drugs, which is based on the principles of evidence-based medicine, personalized approach, and social responsibility of the state. And the main purpose of the whole system is to make sure that rare disease patients have a timely access to the efficient, safe, and state-of-the-art therapy, regardless of the rarity of this disease and the cost of the therapy. Thank you very much for your attention. As you understood from my presentation, we are still going toward cross-country procurement. We are contemplating this. This is yet under discussion because the association is a platform, so to speak, a platform for discussion between governmental authorities and manufacturers. This is a question for discussion, and it is discussed very beautifully at your platform, and it is a great pleasure that you initiate this discussion for this question. I was very happy to learn that this orphan consortium was created because I took part in the first orphan forum of the CIS countries in Moscow, and creation of this orphan consortium of CIS countries expands the borders and possibilities for procurement of orphan drugs in CIS countries. Thank you. Thank you very much once again for your participation, for this very informative presentation about how orphan drugs are being made accessible for your patients in Kazakhstan. Nuria asked you for your opinion about our future prospects for development, and you supported this, and we are hoping that jointly we will be helping Dr. Nuria Musina at this site and similar sites to work together for the sake of our patients. Thank you very much once again. And now I am happy to give the floor to Alexey Fedorov, expert of the All Russian Patients Union. Today, almost every speaker from the very beginning was mentioning the fruitful work that should be patient-oriented, and that's why we would like to give the floor to you, Mr. Fedorov, to learn your opinion about these initiatives. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alexey and Nuria. First of all, I would like to respond to the previous presentation because it actually contains exactly the solutions that are long awaited for by our patients. Dramatic shortening of the registration period down to 15 working days. Okay, and what is most important, with a similar inclusion in the formulary, because when the access terms shorten critically from the moment of registration, then the drug becomes accessible for the patient. And also the mandatory minimum inventory, it is also very important. Today in Russia, we have this opportunity for a limited list of drugs as part of Krug Dobra, Circle of Kindness Charity Foundation. And number 3, that also highlighted in my heart, is the centralized procurement. Indeed, it is a working instrument to reduce the costs in the healthcare system. We understand very well that orphan patients for the budget, they unfortunately, but they do create additional burden because their therapy is much more costly. Not due to, I wouldn't say shortage of the budget, but when the budget is still limited, the improvement in the efficiency of money spending is really something that we should all be striving for, and centralized procurement is a very logical step here, and from our part we also supported this in many presentations that we made, even more so at the cross-country level. Now coming back to the key proposal today, to split the orphan drug designation for registration purposes and for national handling purposes. This is my personal opinion, but I hope that my colleagues from the patients' organization will support this. I believe this is quite logical, because if we delegate the registration to the supranational level, to the Eurasian Union level, it is just logical that the orphan status designation or any other similar specific statuses to get a fast-track procedure or special registration conditions, they should also be decided on at the supranational level. And as for details that Anna Lakhtanova mentioned, I also thought about overlapping with the drugs of special significance in terms of the volume of unmet need and the morbidity of the disease that are taken into account for drugs of special significance. Yes, it exists, this nuance, but in general, the orphan designation status should stay at the supranational level. Moreover, that in different Eurasian Union countries, this status means different consequences. For example, in Russia, the status of an orphan drug itself does simplify the entry into the lists, but as such, taken alone just by itself, it doesn't provide access to the drug therapy, contrary to some other countries where it exists. But for registration purposes, yes, this unified approach is a very logical step. Other details that caught my attention in MENA country presentations where Dr. Semaan mentioned the mechanisms that we have long been awaiting for, and we do hope that in our Eurasian Union practice these instruments will also be developing, because they are quite patient-focused. And in some MENA countries, these mechanisms indeed they exist. The risk-sharing models and other similar models, they are indeed the models that do have an impact on overall accessibility of the therapy for the patients, because they help to reduce the costs in the healthcare system and enable the healthcare system to be more loyal, so to speak, towards the drugs with limited evidence data as to their efficacy. Especially this is important for costly drugs. And the last thing I noticed in presentation of Daniil Alansky from Generium. I'm very happy that he mentioned the need for dialogue with patients' organizations, and in the list of demands from my part, I would like to remind to Alexey Kedrin, our distinguished moderator, that last year between our patients' union and the association represented by Alexey, we signed a document called the Code of Patient-Focused Interaction. And this code document envisages stronger interaction between pharmaceutical companies and patients' organizations to ensure that patients interested are taken into account as maximum as possible. We need to believe that a patient is not an object, but rather a subject of this process of drugs handling. A subject that is under direct impact of every decision made here, and we need to take this into account. If I forgot to respond to something that you believe I should have responded as a representative of patients' organization, I'm ready to answer, but so far I'm happy to return the mic to you. Thank you very much, Alexey, and a special thank you for you to draw your attention to this model of controllable access. I was also touched by mentioning of MENA countries where these models are already in practice, in use, and we have been talking about this for 10 years, and still we are unsuccessful in implementing them. So our regulatory system is kind of too rigid here. So we lost time with CAR-T therapy, because when our center started to make academic CAR-T, but now CAR-T in other countries, in Middle Eastern countries, has been in active use, and we have just recently made this tariff. So these new technologies actually are pressing on us that we cannot no longer be so conservative. We need to respond quicker. We need to fine-tune quicker. This is a kind of rigidity test. For the rigidity of our system was the CAR-T test. So we kind of passed this test, but it took too long time for us. So CAR-T test is a test for a healthcare system to quickly respond to innovative technologies. Tomorrow we are going to have a session for cell technologies. It's like risk sharing, you know. I have a comment because Nuria, you ideally made this relation between CAR-T therapy and our orphan drugs in terms of risk sharing approach, because when we were making our first event in patient-focused innovations, three key questions were discussed. First, the three main and the hottest debates were around expediting access in terms of registration, where we back then there were no category of drugs of special significance, but nevertheless we reach this understanding that it is not innovative drugs that we should be pushing on, but rather what is more important for the country today is to provide access for the drugs that, given the total set of criteria, are of higher priority. And the second topic was CAR-T therapy. Back then we did not have any hospital exclusions or at the national level, and no understanding what that was. And during these 6 years, now we're in 2026, we have achieved some progress, but we lost a lot of time, you are right. And the third question that so far isn't moving very fast ahead is the result-oriented models. But we can only hope that at least as part of the Circle of Kindness Charity Foundation, taking into account that since that year they started to evaluate the efficacy of the therapy, these might create prerequisites for introduction of these models in real clinical practice. So let's hope that in the nearest future, maybe this year or next year, we will be able to see it in reality. Well, yes. And in terms of the Circle of Kindness, I want to give an example of Kenzo Fund that exists in UK. What did not get into total reimbursement. They sent all this to the Cancer Fund, and it was great until the money just expired. They became bankrupt, and after that they implemented a special model that is fully based on risk sharing. Everything that goes to Cancer Fund goes through risk sharing now. So I believe this is a prerequisite of financing as part of the circle of kindness, because otherwise, excuse me, but we will just run out of money. The only model is a reassessment 1 year later. Well, not just by some triggers, but it is all included for a certain period of time, and then they reevaluate the efficacy, the real efficacy, and the justified price. And this is a living thing, a living mechanisms to constantly fine-tune these risks and expenditures. Otherwise, we will just run out of money. Thank you very much for your review, and now I'm happy to give the floor to Alexander Kostyuk. The same question for you, to make a kind of review from the height of your experience. You have been monitoring our systems, you understand what HTAi means, what health economic means. So you know how we are moving, what models, what international models do we have, and in terms of the registration status, in terms of risk sharing, you are also well lagging behind. You did not introduce managed entry agreements. So what are the key areas that you are seeing at the moment where we should be moving to? Thank you very much for this opportunity to contribute. The activity of Orphan CIS Consortium plays a very important role here for every country in CIS community, because with all the regulatory needs in this area, it is very desynchronized, very much desynchronized in different countries, and also there are still a lot of white spots here. There are gaps, no organizations with proven results, proven in international clinics, and our today's session has highlighted a number of key priorities for our future improvement initiatives, improvement of orphan drug accessibility systems, and I believe that this question that you are discussing now, orphan designation through registration, is a globally proven practice. Unfortunately, in many countries of CIS, in particular in Kazakhstan, the concept of orphan drug is associated with an idea that it is about the reimbursement status or procurement status. So once it becomes orphan drug, then social medical insurance must ensure reimbursement for this drug in any country. But the global practice shows that it is wrong for many reasons, not only financial reasons. In fact, orphan drugs have alleviated conditions for market access, and faster tracks here are very important, and it is supported in many countries, in fact. So the drug can reach the patient, but sometimes with some inferred evidence maybe. So these mechanisms should be envisaged through registration procedure rather than through other mechanisms. And what is especially important, I think it is quite an archaic way forward, is when we are trying to provide access for patients without the orphan drug being registered. No, we should follow another way. We should make it easier to register the drug. So I believe we need to reach this harmonized approach that orphan status should be designated through the registration procedure. And on top of that, if there are too many barriers, like the lists of rare diseases that exist in many countries, and as you can see, they are different between different countries. In some countries, it's almost 200 orphan diseases. In some other countries, it's a bit more than 60. Yes, we can say that globally there are more than 6,000 orphan orphan nosologists, and maybe in the future we need to think about deeper bureaucratizing this procedure somehow. And maybe we will not be needing this list of rare diseases as such, but rather we need to set proper criteria for a rare disease, because this is an additional barrier for the inclusion on the list, and there are criteria for orphan diseases that European Union use for the criteria for registration of an orphan drug. And when we create an additional list, this means an additional barrier. And we can be speaking about specificity of orphan drugs, sorry, rare diseases, through reimbursement, through state system. It is an excellent fact. In some countries there is no rare disease list, but there is a special list where patients are exempted from payment. So we can follow the same logic. First, orphan designation through registration, and if we are to build kind of rare disease list, this should not be at the entry point to the registration. No, it should be elsewhere. If we are to speak about reimbursement and procurement, we are to come up with a list of these diseases and the drugs, and it should never be 100%, because I think not a single budget of any single state will be able to cope with that. I think that to the maximum extent possible, if we are to speak about European Union drugs, I think the biggest is 6%, but we are always striving for 100% result, and even presence of such powerful structures like the circle of kindness. I fully believe that it is no more than transitory solution. And the situation in the UK with cancer pharma, no, I think we should be discussing some other mechanisms like risk sharing and others. And we need to drive down the prices. And one of the powerful sources is the combined procurement and I believe that development of new innovative drugs would be very important here, that we heard from a number of presenters today. And these are new resources that will help us to build up a new system for patients with rare and ultra-rare diseases. By the way, as a final remark, this is also very important. Indeed, for many years we were mixing the two concepts, but in Kazakhstan, for example, just 10 years ago, we used to have a situation where this centralized procurement was for prednisone only, but currently now prednisone is not an orphan drug. It has a number of other indications, and now the regulatory framework has been harmonized. But nevertheless, I believe that we need to change this. They are not orphan, they are rare or ultra rare, I believe. I believe that this initiative has been actively using and being applied by Orphan Consortium also through organization of similar forums. And one of the options is creating a kind of special committees as part of BRICS system that can help to facilitate and streamline the regulatory framework in our countries, and this will help us to better care for our patients. Thank you very much, Alexander, for this very informative response. Of course, this experience is very useful for us for our joint discussions at this venue of this forum to discuss these ideas and the activity of the CIS Consortium, the BRICS Consortium in the future. And we need to continue our work. And again, I will repeat myself, for the care of our patients. So I think we can give the floor to Nuria for final remarks. Yes, dear colleagues, thank you ever so much indeed for every one of you who was able to take part in our today's session. We stay in touch. We have each other's contacts. So those of you who are listening to us today, industry representatives, please feel free to send your proposals for this industry council, industry board, to discuss maybe conditions of your membership and so on, and agenda shaping. And I do hope that our today's experts, and we have other experts as well, I do hope that we will continue our collaboration. And maybe the format would be that depending on the agenda, depending on the question to be discussed, we will be building an expert group from the Orphan Consortium part, like we did it this time. And then together with the Association of International Pharmaceutical Producers, we will continue our work, because we also want to express our opinions as to this, to think about criteria and so on. So we will be able to test our work on this proposal. And for other proposals, you know, we are just starting to shape our future steps. So please feel free to contact us online, by email, whatever way is preferable for you. Today we are calling it a day. It has been a long day, and tomorrow we are going to have a multitude of different sessions, and we will also continue to discuss access to drugs, to orphan drugs, as part of BRICS countries consortium. We are going to discuss health technology assessment, and we are joining together our efforts with our partners from many countries. From Russia, it will be Sechenov University who will be leading this discussion, so feel free to join tomorrow. And also we are going to develop the resolution based on the results of our forum, so please feel free to send your suggestions. Thank you very much. Waiting to see you tomorrow. Thank you. See you tomorrow.